See, isn't just what you leave behind, it's how you show up right now. The Leo new moon isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for boldness. So, what will your crown look like when the lights come back on? You're watching In the Making, a podcast for creatives in the process of becoming. I'm Faylita Hicks, an award-winning writer, Grammy-nominated artist, and creative strategist, helping people build bold lives at the intersection of art, ritual, and liberation. Every week, I'm here with truth, spiritual downloads, and practical advice for artists building intuitive, revolutionary lives. This is where alchemy meets art. This is In the Making. Let's get into it. Legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's what you echo forward, what you embody now, and how that presence ripples across dimensions. Legacy is not limited to accolades or archives. It is resonance, it is relationship, it is repair. And this new moon in Leo, it's not just a cosmic reset, it's a throne call, an energetic ignition point in the quantum oracular field, a moment when the creative flame of your spirit intersects with sovereign intention. Leo rules the sun, and the sun never doubts its purpose. It simply burns. This lunation invites you to do the same. It's a moment to ask, what are you authoring in the multiverse with your voice, your vision, your values? Not just what will be remembered, but what deserves to radiate. If we claim this moon with courage, the Aquarius full moon on August 9th will act like a cosmic loudspeaker, broadcasting your frequency across timelines and networks and future communities. But first, you have to decide, what is the frequency of your legacy? And here's the truth. Legacy is rarely clean. It is layered, messy, sometimes unfinished, sometimes cracked with contradiction. Just this past month, we lost Malcolm Jamal Warner, known to many as a sitcom star, but to those of us paying attention, he was also a poet, a quiet force of cultural rhythm, a mental health advocate, and a man doing that very deep work. He didn't just grow up on screen, he evolved in public, modeling how legacy isn't made in a moment, but in a series of intentional pivots toward wholeness. We also said goodbye to Andrea Gibson, someone I had the honor of knowing through the Poetry Slam world. Andrea was a warrior for tenderness, a chronicler of grief, gender, and ecstatic love. Their poems weren't just about survival. They helped us to think about how we wanted to survive. Even in death, their language is still holding vigil. They will be extremely missed. And then, of course, Ozzy Osbourne. Wild, raw, magnetic, body channeling frequencies so fierce they shattered genre. Ozzy's legacy was forged in defiance, in tradition, in noise that refused to quiet down. And somehow, in a chaos, there was grace. There was truth in the distortion. But not every legacy holds. Hulk Hogan was once a cultural titan until his racism caught on tape, cracked the illusion of the hero. Proof that no amount of stardom can protect you from your shadow. Legacy isn't just shaped by your fans, it's shaped by your failures. And when those failures are rooted in hate, they become a part of the story you can't edit out. That's why we grieve for Basquiat. Brilliant, undeniable, exploited. His work pulsed with urgency, but his life was shortened by a world that consumed his magic and discarded his body. His legacy endures, but so does the ache. What more could he have created if he had been cared for? And what about the 27 Club? Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. Geniuses undone by a world too eager to extract, too slow to support. They gifted us brilliance, but their stories remind us creation without compassion becomes combustion. So when we talk about legacy, we must talk about the whole life. Not just the output, but the impact. Not just the talent, but the tenderness. Not just the persona, but the person. You don't have to be famous to have a legacy. You just have to ask yourself, what are my choices creating? What energy am I making sacred? What pain am I transmuting into beauty? Because legacy doesn't start with the big work. It starts with the brave work. Lighting the altar, sitting in silence, turning your writing desk into a ritual site, your recording booth into a confessional, your gallery space into a communion circle. In the quantum oracular framework, legacy is not just about impact, it's about timeline design. It's how you become an ancestor in real time, how you leave markers across the multiverse. How you ensure that when your name is whispered by anyone who's still trying to find their light, it's become a beacon. This is the gift of Leo, to create not for validation, but for devotion. And in just 2 weeks, the full moon in Aquarius will rise and ask, how have you used your light for the collective? The answer is being written right now. So now the question becomes, how do we respond to this moment? Not just with reflection, but with creative power. What does it look like to stand in the center of the flame and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm here to radiate. Not for applause, but for alignment. This is where the Leo new moon calls us into our bodies, into our practices, into our fire. Let's talk about how to work with this energy right here and right now. New moon in Leo is an invitation to remember who you are before the grind, before the grief, before the gates were locked and the stage was blocked. Leo is the sign of the bold performer, the radiant child, the ruler who leads with heart, but it is also the sign of legacy. This summer has been a scorcher in temperature and in tempo, from uprisings in Los Angeles to the federal attacks on artistic freedom. Every artist I know is asking, how do I make something that matters? This lunation whispers, start by making something that feels like you. Leo governs the heart, the spine, and the stage. It asks us to stand tall, stay centered, and be seen, not for the applause, but for the alignment. Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun never doubts its purpose. It is just radiant, consistent, generative. So when we tap into Leo energy, especially under this new moon, we're not just playing dress up with our dreams. We're forging a covenant with our higher self. We're making vows to the work that outlives us, the light that remembers us, and the joy that sustains us in a world constantly at war with itself. The ancestors didn't call this branding. They called it naming. They called it lineage. They called it, you will know me by my works. And in every generation, under fire and fear, there were artists who refused to forget that. James Baldwin published The Fire Next Time in 1963, at the height of the civil rights movement. He wrote in flames, knowing that the country could no longer afford to look away from its burning. Nina Simone sat at her piano and asked Mississippi, and all of us, what it meant to bleed with grace. Alvin Ailey choreographed Revelations with the full weight of Black spirituals and sorrows pressed into every limb, but legacy making under pressure is not unique to one people or one place. Kahlo painted from her hospital bed while fascism spread across Europe. Ai Weiwei used porcelain and rubble to challenge censorship in China. Zora Neale Hurston, broke and brilliant, archived Black Southern folklore while Jim Crow raged. Yoko Ono turned silence into protest with Cut Piece. Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish wrote verses of exile and home from a war zone. Amrita Sher-Gill, one of India's first modernist painters, died young but left behind canvases dripping with divine boldness. Tatsumi invented Buto dance in post-war Japan as a way to express the unspoken grief and rage left behind by the bombings. The Kitchen Sisters documented unglamorous real lives during Reaganomics, and indigenous artists across Turtle Island, from Joy Harjo to Kanupa Hanska Lugar, have never stopped making work that protects, remembers, and resists. This is the legacy you are joining, not just of art under pressure, but of vision beyond crisis. We are not here to perform normalcy. We are here to shape what's next. Because every time we light the altar candle or drop a beat that echoes our ancestors' drums or stand in the gallery and refuse to flinch, we are reminding this world what it means to feel again, to see each other clearly, to dream with dignity. Your writing desk can be a sacred table. Your recording booth can be a confessional. Your rehearsal studio can be a shrine. These are not hobbies. They are sanctuaries. When we show up with reverence, our creativity becomes ritual, our rituals become memory, and our memory becomes map. Right now, in the shadow of rising fascism, AI overreach, climate catastrophe, and unchecked capital, we need prophets in the form of poets, painters, DJs, dancers, filmmakers, and sculptors, comedians. We need people who still believe that liberation is worth the labor, that joy is worth the risk, that the future deserves a soundtrack. This new moon is not asking you to play it safe. It's asking you to be loud about your purpose, to shine, not despite the darkness, but because of it. Legacy isn't just what's left behind, it's what we carry forward, intact, ignited, and undeniable. In late 2009, my fiance and I went to go visit my friend Gabrielle Boulain in the hospice. While I was there, she asked me several questions, including, "So tell me how it ends." I didn't know what she meant by that. I was like, "What do you mean, how does it end?" She goes, "How does your story end? I need to know how it ends." And it was probably the most important question anyone has ever asked me. I told her that the way my story ends is I get married, I have a couple of kids, I write a bunch of books, I tour the country as a poet, and then I tour the world. That was the biggest I could dream at that point in time. But in her asking me that question, I realized that she was also giving me a gift. She was helping me to understand that I get to live. I get to make things happen. I have the time, I have the space to do that. This is something that I would need to be thinking about in case there was ever a chapter closing. My friend's chapter was closing, and I was going to have to continue after that chapter closed. She did pass away in January of 2010. And since then, I have used that question for me every time I go and I think about what's next for me. I think about how do I want the story to end. Legacy is extremely important. Her legacy for me is me thinking larger and bigger as often as I can, and me showing up every single day, even if it's hard. I take my breaks, yes, but I show up every single day in the best way that I can because I get to, right? So that is one of the reasons why we're talking about legacy today. Gabrielle Boulain. These days I ask myself, if this was my last show, this was the last line, the last laugh, what would I want to leave behind? That's when legacy stopped being about fame and started being about frequency. What emotion do I leave in the room when I'm gone? What truth hums under my silence? Under this Leo new moon, we're not chasing clout. We're claiming our crown. These next 2 weeks are a portal. From this Leo new moon to the Aquarius full moon, you are being invited to activate your legacy in real time. Not just in your head, not just in your dreams, but in your actions. And so here are 5 ways to step into that energy starting today. 1, make a declaration. Write it down what you want your creative legacy to stand for. Just 1 paragraph. Read it aloud. Keep it visible. Put it on your altar, your mirror, your homepage. Let it shape your decisions. 2, build a beacon. Choose 1 piece, poem, post, podcast, painting that represents the future you want to help build. And then finish it. Share it. Let it radiate. 3, claim sacred space. Turn 1 part of your daily life into a ritual site. Light a candle before you check your email, bless your recording music or your mic, sweep the floor before you write like you're prepping a stage. Let your process feel holy. 4, witness a legacy. Read or watch work by someone who inspires you, especially someone you've never studied before. Ask, what truth did they leave behind? What burden did they carry so I could be here? And then 5, prepare an offering. Make something for the collective. It can be free. It can be small, an encouraging message to other creatives, a playlist, a prayer, a poem left in a public space. Be generous with your light. Here's your affirmation. I am the architect of my legacy. Every word I speak, every risk I take is a spell for future generations. Write that down and say it again. Now, your journal prompt. What version of me do I want to be remembered, and what am I building today that will make that memory real? Some methods that you can use for journaling include recording a voice memo like you're speaking to someone 100 years from now, or write a letter to your artistic heir or to the child version of yourself. And finally, collage or sketch your legacy in symbols, colors, or keywords. All of this is going to help. All of this is for you. Legacy isn't a distant dream. It's an everyday decision. It's how we show up for our practice, for our people, and for our purpose. This Leo new moon reminds us that visibility isn't just about being seen. It's about being felt, being remembered with intention. From the fires of Baldwin to the prayers of Andrea Gibson to the resilience of your own lineage. This is your moment to claim the crown, not for ego, but for evolution. We talked about what legacy really means, not just the projects we finish, but the presence we bring. Not just who applauds us, but who we lift up. We explored how creative practice becomes ritual, how ritual becomes memory, and how memory maps the future. You were given 5 ways to activate your legacy this cycle, and now it's time to choose one and begin. As the poet Lucille Clifton once wrote, I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? Be the model. Be the mythos. Be the one they say broke the mold. And remember, you're the spell. You're the spark. You're in the making. So stay bold, stay sacred, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Wait, crap.